Vaccine makers prep bird flu shot for humans. Putin and Xi discuss Russia's plan to end the war. Mountains of rubbish pile up in Paris as collectors strike. Doctors say drinking out of the same glass can cause illness. Amazon to cut 9,000 more jobs. Finland declared happiest country 6th time in a row. Rupert Murdoch set to marry for 5th time at 92. Microsoft to launch its own app store.
Hello, I'm Wade Lee. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. It is Wednesday, March 22nd, and here are your top stories. Some of the world's leading makers of flu vaccines say they could make hundreds of millions of bird flu shots for humans within months if a new strain of avian influenza ever jumped across the species divide. While global health officials have said the risk of transmissions between humans is still low, executives at 3 vaccine manufacturers, GSK, Moderna, and CSL Seqirus, said they are already developing or about to test sample human vaccines that better match the circulating subtype as a precautionary measure against a future pandemic.
So we said, we will just make a vaccine that has immunogens from all known 20 influenza types.
The WHO said there are close to 20 licensed vaccines against the broader H5 strain of flu. Existing antiviral treatments for people already infected will also help mitigate the impact. Executive Director of Infectious Diseases at Moderna, Raphael Nachbagauer, said Moderna's mRNA vaccine research actually began with pandemic flu and was modified for COVID. Moderna plans to launch a small human trial of an mRNA pandemic flu vaccine tailored to the new avian influenza subtype in the first half of 2023.
Vladimir Putin has said he will discuss Xi Jinping's 12-point plan to settle the acute crisis in Ukraine during a high-anticipated visit to Moscow by the Chinese president. China released a plan to end the war last month. It includes ceasing hostilities and resuming peace talks. But on Friday, the U.S. warned the peace talks could be a stalling tactic. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said, "The world should not be fooled by any tactical moves by Russia, supported by China or any other country, to freeze the war on its own terms."
Where Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin are meeting for a high-stakes summit.
China's plan did not specifically say that Russia must withdraw from Ukraine, which Ukraine has insisted is a precondition for any talks. Publicly, Ukrainian leaders have been emphasizing the common ground they have with China, respecting sovereignty and territorial integrity. But privately, they have been lobbying for a meeting, or telephone call, between President Volodymyr Zelensky and Mr. Xi. The fear in Kyiv is that China's support for Russia, currently based around technology and trade, might become military.
Thousands of tons of rubbish have piled up on streets across the French capital after a week of strike action by waste collectors against the government's pension reform. Paris City Hall said on Sunday that 5,400 tons of waste remained uncollected. City Hall employees are in charge of picking up rubbish in half of Paris's district, including the upscale 5th, 6th, and 16th arrondissements. The other half is served by private firms which are not striking.
Piles of rubbish on the streets of Paris.
The hard-left CGT union, which represents a majority of refuse collectors in the capital, has declared a rolling strike in protest over the government's pension reform. According to the CGT, refuse collectors and drivers can currently draw a basic minimum pension from the age of 57. Under the pension reform bill, currently going through Parliament, they would have to work 2 more years. But CGT said life expectancy for garbage workers is 12 to 17 years below the average for the country as a whole.
Do you keep a glass of water next to your bed, refilling it each night without washing it? Or maybe you have a favorite water glass and use that same one for days on end. Never bother to put it in the dishwasher. After all, it's just water. Is it really necessary to wash it? Well, according to doctors, yes. In fact, not doing so could result in a nasty illness. Doctors said norovirus, which is a highly contagious virus that causes vomiting and diarrhea, can survive for a week or more in an unwashed glass without adequate cleaning.
Do you have a habit of reusing the same water glass without washing it?
Founder of the Healthy Brain Clinic Dung Trinh, MD, said, "Even if you are refilling the same glass with fresh water, any bacteria present can multiply quickly and become dangerous." He explained, citing norovirus is just one of the more unpleasant viruses that can live on an unwashed water glass. Trinh said a glass left out in open air may also be exposed to airborne bacteria from dust particles or other sources. Doctors said whatever container you use for your water, Don't forget to replenish it with fresh H2O every day.
Struck 它是 strike 这动词的过去式 strike a deal 就是学习享受一个人的美好时光 FUNDAY 英语
Amazon.com Incorporation said it would cut 9,000 more corporate jobs across units that includes its profitable cloud computing and advertising businesses. CEO Andy Jassy announced Monday in a memo to the staff that the fresh rounds of job cuts will take place in the coming weeks and will mostly impact people working in the following divisions: Amazon Web Services, People Experience and Technology, Advertising, and Twitch. The latest layoffs at Amazon comes amid a spate of job cuts in the technology industry in recent months.
Amazon, like a number of other big tech companies, also rapidly grew its headcount during the early days of the pandemic. Jassy wrote on Monday that the hiring made sense given what was happening in our businesses and the economy as a whole. However, given the uncertain economy in which we reside, and the uncertainty that exists in the near future, we have chosen to be more streamlined in our costs and headcount. Just last week, Facebook parent Meta said it was laying off an additional 10,000 workers.
Finland was dubbed the world's happiest nation for the 6th consecutive year in the annual World Happiness Report released on Monday. The top 8 happiest countries are in Western Europe. Denmark, Iceland, Israel, and the Netherlands rounded out the top 5. The US, meanwhile, came in at number 15, notably ahead of Germany, the United Kingdom, France, and Costa Rica. Out of the 137 countries ranked out of the 195 in existence globally, Afghanistan was considered the least happy nation.
Although some say money can't buy happiness, the lack of it can be a big factor. According to the report, Finland's poverty rate was 12%, compared to 18% in the US. The poverty rate in Afghanistan was 55%. However, war-torn Ukraine came in at 108th on the list, despite the magnitude of suffering and damage the country experienced in the past year. Despite the looming threat of conflict, Taiwan remains East Asia's second happiest nation. With a score of 6.5 ranked 27 worldwide after Singapore in East Asia.
Media tycoon Rupert Murdoch has announced his engagement to his partner Anne Leslie Smith, a former police chaplain. Mr. Murdoch, 92, and Mrs. Smith, 66, met in September at an event at his vineyard in California. The media tycoon told the New York Post, one of his own publications, "I dreaded falling in love, but I knew this would be my last. It better be. I'm happy." The wedding will take place in late summer, and the couple will spend their time between California, Montana, New York, and the UK.
Mr. Murdoch was previously married to Australian flight attendant Patricia Booker, Scottish-born journalist Anna Mann, and Chinese-born entrepreneur Wendy Deng. He split with fourth wife Jerry Hall last year. Ms. Smith's late husband was Chester Smith, a country singer and radio and TV executive. She said, "I'm a widow of 14 years. Like Rupert, my husband was a businessman, so I speak Rupert's language. We share the same beliefs." Mr. Murdoch has 6 children from his first 3 marriages.
Microsoft is planning to launch its own app store for mobile games as a third-party rival to Apple and Google phones software storefronts. It could happen as soon as next year, so long as Microsoft's $68.7 billion acquisition of gaming giant Activision Blizzard is approved. Microsoft gaming CEO Phil Spencer said Apple and Google will be mandated to open up their iOS and Android platform to third-party app stores by March 2024. That's conceivably when Microsoft will be able to launch its own mobile app store.
Microsoft App Store are linked to Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Recent opposition has focused on whether the Call of Duty franchise would only come out on Microsoft's Xbox consoles and PC, though Microsoft has assured that it will come out on other gaming platforms in the near future. He said Microsoft wants a place for users to download its roster of games, which would include popular mobile titles like Call of Duty Mobile, Candy Crush and Diablo Immortal should the acquisition be approved.
FUNDAY News will help sharpen your English skills while keeping you informed on current international events. Tune into our other FUNDAY programs to learn more about the world's most important topics in English. Click the link below now to join FUNDAY for free. I'm Wade Lee, your host. I'll see you next time.